Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to start us off with a nice breath. No, I'm just joking, but you probably should. We're going to sing Let There Be Light. Feel free to join by standing and singing. Let there be light, let there be understanding, let all the nations gather, let them be face to face. Open our lips, open our minds to ponder, open the door of concord, opening into grace. Perish the sword, perish the angry judgment, perish the bonds and hunger, perish the fight for gain. Let there be light. Open our hearts to wonder. Perish the way of terror. Honor the world God made.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we like to say in short around here, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. I was going to make a hybrid, and I almost said work justly. We can live justly or work for justice, but we can also work justly or justly work. Or just work. Just work. Well, welcome everyone again to this place, whether you are in the room with us this morning or joining us on our live stream. So good to have all of you with us. We embrace, as always, all that you bring with you, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, all that makes you who you are. And we do have a lot today, so I wanted to make just some quick announcements. One is, you may have noticed the tables are set up, so we're having our third Sunday potluck after our second service. You'd be welcome to come back for that, or you can even stay around that long if you wish, but I'm guessing you don't. But you'd be welcome to come back for the potluck after our second service if you'd like. I think before we do our dog truth, I'm going to actually invite Linda Green to the pulpit for a somewhat brief but important announcement. Thanks, Linda.
Hello, everyone. At our congregational meeting on June 8th, our church members will vote on whether to become an apartheid-free community. Apartheid is defined as establishing, maintaining domination, and systematically oppressing one racial group over another based on race, creed, or ethnicity. Our particular vote concerns Palestine-Israel. And here is the language of that statement. We affirm our commitment to freedom, justice, and equality for the Palestinian people and for all people. We oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, and oppression. We declare ourselves an apartheid-free community. And to that end, we pledge to join others in working to end all support to Israel's apartheid regime, settler, colonialism, and military occupation. Why do I support this pledge? I'll tell you. It's the right thing to do. When Israel was founded, it stated its goal was to be a Jewish state to the exclusion of all non-Jews. Before 1948, Palestinians lived side by side in peace, Christian, Muslim, and Jew. In 1948, the residents of the country were forced out of their homes, and the Jewish settlers moved right in, taking over their houses, their furniture, their gardens, as though they were entitled to live there. The Palestinians had owned these homes all their lives, and their ancestors were born there, handed down through the generations. That was the beginning of apartheid in Israel, and it's only gotten worse throughout the years. Americans have had a romanticized idea about the state of Israel for years. Maybe you remember the Paul Newman movie, Exodus, that has us pulling for the Jews as they yearn for a land of their own. As an aside, Paul Newman actually said he regretted making the film, which was in 1960. In 1967, Israel actually paid Jews to immigrate to these settlements that they have created. As they expanded, the settlements destroyed Palestinian olive trees and cut off farmers from their land. Their homes and schools are demolished, leaving no recourse. Two legal systems exist: Palestinians under military prosecution and Jews under civil courts. Palestinians must go through military checkpoints to get to their places of work or just for their acts of daily living. The lines through these checkpoints can take hours to get through. There are countless more examples of blatant and violent discrimination. Israel has been an apartheid state since its existence. Unfortunately, it takes a genocide for people to care. Now we should stand with Palestine as we should have years ago. As a Unitarian Universalist, I know it's the right thing to do. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you, Linda. As has become our custom, we are going to offer a dog truth. I'm actually going to do two today. Lynn Janishian and her husband Robert just gifted me with this book, Everything Dogs Expect You to Know, by Karen Bush. And of course, Lynn will be talking more about the importance of reading for a lifetime here in just a little bit during our time for all ages. But she had a saying in here from Groucho Marx I thought I would share today. It's one I've used before, but it's a great one. It says, outside of a dog, a book is probably man's best friend. And inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. Now, I do have another one that I'm going to read because I like the humor. This is from Winston Churchill, who says, I'm fond of pigs. Dogs look up to us. Cats look down on us. Pigs treat us as equals. Okay, so with that, why don't we take a couple of extra seconds this morning to greet one another. more time to visit with one another during our social period following the service, so please stick around for that. But let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
I'm Lisa Conger, your substitute lay leader. Candace Schmidt was supposed to be the lay leader today, but she's not feeling well. So this is her script and her words. And the opening words are from Robert Kennedy, Sr. We can master change not through force or fear, but only through the free work of an understanding mind, through an openness to new knowledge and fresh outlooks, which can only strengthen the most fragile and most powerful of human gifts, the gift of reason.
Okay, please sing with us, Blue Boat Home.
Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we can
We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our thoughts and minds this morning, and begin as we have been for far too long on behalf of the people of Ukraine, in Russia, and all the people caught up in the war and conflict going on in that region of the world, as well as the people of Israel and the Palestinian people. Incidentally, I appreciated Linda's history of what's transpired over there. You might not know that the name Palestine is actually a version of the word Philistine. So when the emperor of Rome was tired of the Jewish rebellions in Judea and forced the Jews from that land, he renamed it after their biblical enemy, the Philistines. So the people who've lived in that land for close to 2,000 years are the Palestinians. That's the name given to them by Rome. But, I mean, so many people there and countries have gotten caught up in that, sadly, in the violence going on there. And it is a genocide. I mean, don't gaslight us. We're watching what's going on, and there's no other way to define it. So many have been saying so for years, as Linda knows, but sadly, it has taken something so overt as the actual attempts to eliminate innocent people from the planet that people have begun to speak up. So, better late than never. All right, I did not get any other requests for candles this week, so let's take a moment of silence on behalf of those you might be thinking of, and you'd be welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud, and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And this is our third Sunday of the month, time for our special collection. And I am actually going to invite one of our church members, Jacob Johns, forward to introduce this month's very unique and special collection.
Hello, everyone. I know it's bright and early this morning, but I wanted to just say, hey, good morning, and offer you a ray of hope here, because we've been working on something for a couple of years now that took place here at this congregation on this land. There was a street that was named out front after a genocidal maniac. Speaking of genocide, the good folks of Spokane thought it would be a great idea to rename a street after this genocidal maniac that did horrible things to the people of this land. And it wasn't just the Spokane tribe, it was the Colville tribe, it was the Flathead tribe, it was the Yakima tribe, it was all of the tribes in the area, that there was a general who had brought in all of these army people to take the land and had offered a flag of truce to the tribal leaders. And the tribal leaders came to this fort here, and within 15 minutes they arrested them and hanged them. And they had a street named after this person out front here. And for a number of years when I moved here, I thought that it was an atrocity, it was a slap in the face to our moral obligation, and more importantly, that we as Unitarian Universalists should do something to actively change the street name out front. And so with the congregation's help, a couple of years ago, along with the coalition of community partners, we got together and we did a direct action out front. One of the things this general was known for was he was known for killing over 800 horses from the Spokane tribe. They ran out of bullets and clubbed them to death for 3 days. while the tribe heard the cries of their animals. And so we took it upon ourselves to take horseback to lead a group of people demonstrating down to where the big sign was. We threw a banner upwards and renamed it ourselves to Genocide Avenue. And it was with the continuation of community support and online coalitions, and not to forget Dr. Margot Hill, who is not here at the moment, but convinced the city council to give us those signs after they changed the street name, rightfully so, to a Spokane tribal warrior woman who was responsible for taking injured men from the front lines. And the city agreed to give us these old signs because what we wanted to do is not forget the past, but come to terms with it, and more importantly, rebuild something out of it. And so for the past 5 years, I've been selling these jerseys. As some of you know, I travel around quite often, and I've had these jerseys manufactured way before the tariffs, and they say land bag, right? Because this is what we did. We took the land back and we renamed it. And, for those of us who do climate reparations and we're focusing on reparations, we also stand in solidarity with those folks who are seeking reparations around the planet. And for the past 5 years, I've sold these jerseys around the country and the planet and raised $5,000. So this $5,000 is going to go towards a sculpture that we are going to make out of the street signs that the city had gave us. Rick Davis, who is not here right now but will be for the second service, is coming to bring one of the signs, and we'll speak a little bit about it. I had raised money to hire a Spokane tribal artist to create the sculpture, create the design, and then worked with local artist Rick Davis and also paid both of them $500 for their time to create this structure. We also have a 3D model to make of it. So what we are planning to do with the size of these signs is to create this sculpture, to rename something and create something beautiful out of this atrocity that all of us had to endure. And taking this horrible past and taking this disgusting things that we all have to live with and making something new, making something beautiful. And we are going to put it here on the church, and these songs are massive. They're like 14 feet. So what we are asking for is to continue to keep the size and the scale for the original sign, and we're asking for another $5,000. I cannot look at these jerseys anymore. It's been like 5 years of me walking around, and every single time I finish up a speech, I say, hey, I give a little spiel, kind of like what I just gave now about why we changed the name and why we're doing this thing. But this is a great way for us, specifically in this moment in time, to remember that we have each other, and that community itself is what strengthens our bonds, and we can right the wrongs of history so that we can come to terms with that and move together as one society. And that's what we're doing here. And that's what we've already done. And so what we are trying to do is amplify that message and give people hope, especially in these times when we are staring down fascism and genocide right in front of us, being supported by our own government. We have each other, and we are the community. And so we are just still continuing to look. This Rick will come down. I'm going to be sticking back at the end of the congregation if folks want to come through. We have nonprofit sponsorship, so any donations can be tax deductible to the full extent of the law. So, anyways, much love. Great look to see it. And then if you all are here for the second service, remember that Rick will be here bringing these signs. So this is for the special collection today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Yeah, so you should have a special collection envelope with you, and you're free to use that if you want to support this very worthy cause. If you're watching us on our live stream, you can go online and do this at your leisure. Just indicate that it's for our special collection. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the erection of this memorial, this monument. So with that, we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Nobody wants to follow Jackie. Good morning, and happy third Sunday in May. Today is a special day for two reasons. It's potluck day for the whole church, and it's also our final Reading Across the Lifespan Sunday of the spring. For the past 8 or 9 months, we've been doing something pretty wonderful together. Once a month, we've gathered in RE, Religious Education, to celebrate books and to grow home libraries, one free, carefully chosen book at a time. Our kids have been building or adding to their own home libraries with stories that spark their curiosity, expand their thinking, and make them laugh, gasp, wonder, and dream. And while Reading Across the Lifespan takes a break for the summer as RE shifts into our Independence Building Play Club structure, that doesn't mean that reading stops. Actually, it means that we may have even more time to read and more freedom to read what we choose ourselves. That freedom to explore, to think, to wonder is at the heart of our faith. In our church, we believe in freedom of thought and the power of stories to grow moral courage. Stories that help us understand not just what's right, but how to recognize when something's missing, like character or integrity. Stories help us become better thinkers, better friends, better people. Thank you to all of the adults who have supported this new reading adventure, whether by donating books, contributing funds, or sharing your own reading journeys. You've helped make this a true community of readers. And our community of readers is diverse and brilliant. I'd like to introduce you to a few who are not here now, but will be here second service, or some of them will. Want to know more about graphic novels? Jude, talk to Jude. Like edge of your seat adventures or something really funny? Max is your guy. Need a little courage? Allison and James, they're fearless. I have trouble finding books scary enough for them. Interested in the symbolism of C.S. Lewis? Arthur is your reader. Meredith and Zoe, they don't just read dystopian fiction and psychological thrillers. They're writing their own stories too. Our youngest readers are showing up strong too. Brynley, Amy's daughter, is fascinated by cats, turtles, starfish, and unicorns. And Raché's daughter Eva, having discovered this year how to read words herself, is now pretty sure that if I would just put in enough time and practice, I can teach my dog Lola to read as well. We'll see how that goes. And our grown-up readers, they're amazing too. Maureen Ladich, she's revisiting some of her childhood favorite classics. Candace Schmidt is reading widely and writing book reviews for the Liberal Beacon, our online magazine of NAUA. Love sci-fi? Talk to Alan Foster, but be sure you really love sci-fi or you may not want to get him started. Every self-respecting seasonal or mood reader like Stephanie Gronholz knows that it's time to put aside those wintry cozy mysteries set in Three Pines, Quebec, and get her TBR set more appropriately for some beach reading. And speaking of Three Pines, Quebec, together with Michelle Atwood, who's also read that series, you might wonder together how it's possible that such a tiny little town in Canada, of all places, can have so many murders. Want to read widely and deeply about politics and history and the social implications thereof? Dick and Judy Gammon are your people. So much so that twice I've checked out books from the library and come home to find the receipt from previous readers tucked in like a long-forgotten bookmark with Judy Gammon's name on it. This summer, even without scheduled book giveaways, we are not putting our reading lives on pause. So here's how you can help Reading Across the Lifespan keep it going. Check out our Secret Readers Society kiosk in the Friendship Hall. Use it to participate in the Secret Readers Society monthly reading challenge. Share your summer TBR, or your to be read list, that stands for. If you're not a list maker in advance, just share what you're reading right now. Recommend a favorite book or genre. Read the reading wishes, most importantly, of our younger members and help make those dreams come true. Let's keep asking each other, what are you reading? Let's build bridges across generations, across genres, across summer afternoons. Reading whole books makes us more thoughtful people, and thoughtful people build a better world. So, what's on your reading list this summer?
Thanks, Lynn. I invite you now into our time of meditation, so find a comfortable, relaxed, receptive posture. Close your eyes if you wish, and take several deep breaths as I lead you into meditation with these words. Hear the wind gently blowing through budding leaves. Hear the soft buzzing of bees moving from flower to flower. Hear the birds twitter and chirp as they feed in the morning and evening. Hear the patter of raindrops gently landing on your umbrella during your daily walk. Hear your own heartbeat.
Voy a reír, voy a bailar, vivir mi vida, la, 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 la. Voy a reír, voy a gozar, vivir mi vida, la, 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 la. A veces llega lluvia para limpiar las heridas, y a veces solo una gota puedo vencer la sequía. ¿Y para qué llorar? ¿Para qué? Si duele una pina se olvida. ¿Y para qué sufrir? ¿Para qué si hace la vida que vive? La, la, le. Voy a reír, voy a bailar, vivir mi vida. La, 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 la. Voy a reír, a vivir el momento para atender el destino. Voy a escuchar en silencio para que entrar el camino y para que llorar, para que si duele una pena se olvida y para que sufrir, para que si duele una pena se olvida. La la le, voy a reír, voy a bailar, vivir mi vida. La 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 la, voy a reír, voy a gozar, vivir mi vida. La 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 la, oh la 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 la, oh la 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 la. Voy a reír, voy a bailar, vivir mi vida. La 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 la.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. I have no idea what you said, but it was very moving. It was very moving. The bad news is I've changed the sermon. The whole service has been built around this morning, but I have tried to come up with a sermon that would be fitting for this. And the reason is that our guest from Latinos in Spokane, Jorge Guerrero, had to cancel a few days back, and I didn't know what I was going to do instead of what we had at least planned. And I wasn't going to know until I started to write on Friday. And that's what I did. I just sat down and wrote and started writing and got about 3/4 way through. And I said, okay, what am I going to call this thing? And so today, the title of today's sermon is Toward a World of Open Arms and Open Borders. So it's a bit broader, but hopefully we can get folks from Latinos in Spokane to come another time. So I'll begin with a story. Once upon a time, America was great. Then a bunch of immigrants arrived and ruined it for everyone. I think it's time to make America great again. Now, that's not a line from one of Donald Trump's campaign speeches. Okay, it is. But that's not how I mean it, and I'm not being insincere. There was a time in this country when a mass migration of immigrants overwhelmed its people, gobbled up most of the resources for themselves, leading to destitution and grave injustices. And if you don't believe me, just ask the American Indians who are still around, or the descendants of those other original Americans whom we now call Mexicans. There's a few lines in John Steinbeck's 1939 novel, The Grapes of Wrath, about Dust Bowl refugees migrating west, that masterfully makes this point. Once California belonged to Mexico, and its land to Mexicans, and a horde of tattered, feverish Americans poured in, and such was their hunger for land that they took the land, stole Sutter's land, Guerrero's land, took the grants and broke them up and growled and quarreled over them, those frantic, hungry men. And they guarded with guns the land they had stolen. They put up houses and barns. They turned the earth and planted crops. And these things were possessions, and possession was ownership. The Mexicans were weak and fled. They could not resist because they wanted nothing in the world as ferociously as the Americans wanted land. Today I consider myself a Native American of sorts. For this is the country in which I was born, as were generations of my ancestors, mostly Quakers who've been here, mostly in Maine, Kentucky, and Oklahoma since the 17th century, I should say. I also consider it my home because I had no more choice where I was born than a daffodil has over where the fur of an animal or the feathers of a bird or the winds end up planting it. This is the country I grew up in, the land and culture that has shaped me, the place in which I have found opportunities and experienced hardships, where I have found love and family and friends, opportunities and purpose, and where I have experienced injustice, prejudice, hatred, and grief. It is my home. I'm an American. I'm not overly proud nor ashamed of being an American. It is just a fact of my existence. It is the place the forces of nature and history have planted me, and it is where I have had to find and continue to make my way. Yet I do not consider this country my land. I do not own it. It does not belong to me, despite having a deed to a small parcel upon which my home rests. I belong to it. I'm part of it. I can't help belonging to it for all the reasons I've already said, because I was born here, grew up here, and have had to find my way and make my life here. Nor am I unaware of, or intentionally ignoring, or unmoved by the traumatic history of this land's earliest inhabitants, and many of those desperate immigrants who have also come or tried to come here to make a better life for themselves and their families. White European immigrants may have had it easier than some, but this wasn't true for most. More than half the English immigrants who arrived here during the 17th and 18th century came as indentured servants, a practice that didn't end until 1865 with the establishment of the U.S. Constitution's 13th Amendment, the same amendment that abolished slavery, because that's what such servitude was, slavery. Many others, as we know, weren't immigrants at all, but were violently dragged here in chains and cruelly forced to work as slaves for generations. Others, like the Chinese immigrants, one of the largest group of immigrants in California, seeking fortune during the gold rush, were forced out of the gold mines by whites, were prohibited from filing mining claims, and ended up having to work in low-wage service jobs or in deadly and deplorable conditions as miners for those who could own mines. Others had no choice but to undertake equally as oppressive and dangerous work, constructing roads, bridges, and the western section of the Transcontinental Railroad. Yet despite all that they were accomplishing and contributing, the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act officially banned Chinese immigrants from even coming to America and prohibited those already here from testifying to any crimes committed against them by whites. Single, unaccompanied women of any color were also prohibited from coming to America under penalty of being arrested as prostitutes. The Naturalization Act of 1790 barred American Indians, free blacks, slaves, indentured servants, Asians, and anyone else who wasn't considered of good moral character from obtaining legal citizenship here. Even desperate Irish immigrants, the victims of famine in their own country due to the potato blight of 1740, were utterly despised because of both their nationality and their religion, their Catholic religion. They were treated so poorly that slaves used to add a little bit of levity to their own circumstances by jesting, "My master is so cruel, he treats me no better than the common Irishman." Legal immigration quotas continued to be based exclusively on race and nationality until the civil rights movement way up into the 1960s. Yet here we are today, still discriminating against immigrants. If not formally, then informally. If not legally, then illegally. based on stereotypes, prejudice, race, nationality, fear, and hate. During his first run for office, Donald Trump characterized those immigrants crossing into the U.S. from Mexico as criminals and rapists. Once elected, his zero-tolerance policy resulted in the forced separation of thousands of children from their parents at the southern border, some of whom have yet to be reunited. DACA recipients, those young people brought here as children who've known no other home, were repeatedly threatened with deportation, their futures held hostage to Trump's political whims. In addition to Mexicans and other South Americans, Trump also issued a series of executive orders banning those from predominantly Muslim countries from entering the U.S. His administration's actions towards immigrants is just as bad, if not worse now. During his first weeks in office, Trump signed executive orders revoking thousands of student visas and putting the fear in most that if they leave simply to visit their native homes and families, they won't be allowed back in, and if they don't leave, they may be arrested and deported anyway. His administration has arrested, transferred to other states, and incarcerated legal immigrants who were involved in protesting Israel's current genocide against the Palestinians without due process and by labeling these protesters terrorists. He's arrested over 200 individuals and deported them overnight to a notorious prison in El Salvador, accusing them of being part of a gang without producing any evidence or giving them their legally required day in an American court, despite the orders of a federal judge. He's even ignored the Supreme Court's order to facilitate the return of at least one who's been proven to be innocent of Trump's unsubstantiated claims. Just a few weeks ago, he deported 3 very young children who are U.S. citizens under the birthright citizenship clause of the Constitution, including one child with cancer, along with their mother who is not a citizen, sending them all to Honduras, a country none of them is from. He's also announced intentions to deport illegal immigrants to Libya, regardless of where they are originally from. This week, the Supreme Court heard arguments from Trump's attorneys asking them to reinterpret the Constitution. Which is settled and clear already, so that he can continue to kick American children out of the U.S. to wherever he wants. Ironically, just this past week, he granted asylum to a small number of white South African farmers, citing dubious claims of reverse racism. Historically, there have been territorial divisions and disputes between groups of humans, which have been especially brutal since the advent of agriculture, sometimes resulting in outright war. At this moment in time, despite our many great advances, there's little difference regarding our attitudes towards those who live on the other side of the artificial lines that we have placed between us and the rest of our human family. Today alone, there are 2 wars happening, one between Russia and Ukraine and another between Israel and Hamas that has resulted in violence between Israel and Gaza, the West Bank, Iran, Lebanon, and Yemen. Additionally, in recent weeks, the U.S. and UK have engaged in airstrikes targeting the Houthis in Yemen in response to their attacks on ships in the Red Sea. There's also Donald Trump's trade war against every country in the world in his effort to make America great again, a country representing less than 4.3% of the human population at the expense of everyone else. In response, our closest neighbors have themselves begun to more firmly hold to their own lines of separation, with the Canada First movement above the northern U.S. border, which Trump recently said is an artificially drawn line that makes no sense. And below the southern border, Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, told him, "No, President Trump, our territory is inviolable. Our sovereignty is inviolable. We will never accept the presence of the U.S. Army in our territory. We can work together, but you in your territory and us in ours." It's natural when we feel threatened to withdraw behind the artificial lines we have established between ourselves and those we consider outsiders, which is why such fear was the main campaign mechanism of Donald Trump. But territorialism, isolationism, and nationalism that result from such fears cannot benefit us within the global community that the whole of humanity now occupies. Either we will isolate and impoverish ourselves in a world that is dependent upon each other, or end up in pointless wars and conflicts that hurt everyone involved except perhaps the oligarchs who start them. So we can continue down this age-old path, or we can try something different. Instead of tightening our borders, we should begin loosening them to travel wherever they wish. But this was also once true of those of us living in the U.S. and in Europe. Yet in 1992, less than 30 years ago, the formation of the European Republic, Denmark, England, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Scotland, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, and Wales. 30 different countries. The right to move about freely anywhere within the EU. That means they can travel, work, study, and settle in any country in the England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. Lost these rights after they voted. Scotland did not, but unfortunately they were included in the overall decision to leave the EU in 2016. They can still travel within the EU, but not for more than 90 days within a 180-day period. Subsequent studies suggest that Brexit has also negatively impacted the UK's economy, causing disruption in trade, investment, supplies, and labor shortages. But if the failure of Brexit should teach us anything, it is that we cannot successfully withdraw from the global community that we are all now a part of. And it should also teach us that we are stronger together. Throughout its history, interstate travel has often been resisted within the U.S., but the Supreme Court has consistently upheld the fundamental right to travel between states, recognizing it as an implied yet constitutional protection, core constitutional protection. Half a dozen key rulings, dating as far back as 1868 and as recently as 2004, make it clear that states cannot impose restrictions or penalties on individuals exercising the constitutional right to freely move between states. This means states cannot deny them welfare benefits, medical care, voter registration, or other services to new residents. I bring this up only to point out that what may currently seem inconceivable, a world of open borders between all nations, could feel as normal as traveling across state lines does in the U.S., or crossing from one country to another in the EU, or from one province to another in Canada. Last Sunday, I gave a sermon by John Dietrich, the father of religious humanism, that he originally delivered in 1919, only 2 months after World War I had ended, the war that was supposed to end all wars. He spoke in anticipation of an international conference on the possibility of establishing some kind of a league or fraternity of nations which will assure us that the fighting on a universal scale will never again blast the earth. And make it possible, he said, for example, that an Englishman will not be a foreigner in America any more than a Pennsylvanian is a foreigner in Minnesota. In this sermon entitled Nationalism and Internationalism, Dietrich made several visionary and inspiring statements, which I'll condense here in just one paragraph. There are many who tell us that until we have moved beyond this present resting place of the nation with its borders and boundaries and barriers, we cannot hope to construct a fabric of that ideal internationalism of which the prophets have dreamed. To love one's country should not mean to hate all others any more than to love one's home means to despise all others. We must learn that the interests of the whole are greater than the interest of any one part. This does not mean that we should not love the nation to which we belong. It means rather that when there is a clash between the interests of our nation and the world at large, we must recognize the supremacy of the interest of humanity to those of the nation. That beyond the nation is the world, and beyond the people of one country, the great circle of humanity. And I believe the day will come when we shall recognize that our first and highest duty is to mankind as a whole and not to any single section of mankind. And each nation will grant the right of interchangeable citizenship so that no dweller in a new land will need to go through the process called naturalization. 1919. Dietrich was a religious humanist, the very first religious humanist. In fact, he was a Unitarian minister here at our church, as you probably know. But his seemingly radical idea of global citizenship, allowing all people to freely move about our shared world, is something that almost all religions teach us in their universal admonition to be kind to strangers and to treat everyone as we ourselves wish to be treated. This is why almost all religions at their best entreat us to be kind to strangers. The Hebrew scripture says, the stranger living with you must be treated as one of your native born. Love him as yourself, for you were strangers in Egypt. Christianity's Apostle Paul said, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some have entertained angels without knowing it. Jesus said, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me in. The 9th century Islamic scholar Ibn Maha wrote, for the white to lord over the black, the Arab over the non-Arab, the rich over the poor, the strong over the weak, or men over women is out of place and wrong. Sikh scripture says, all jealousies have vanished in the society of the saints. All are my friends now, there being no enemy or no stranger. Hinduism's Atharva Veda says, let us have concord with our own people. Let us have concord with people who are strangers to us. The divine twins create between us and the strangers a unity of hearts. A Buddhist sutra says, although there are northern men and southern men, north and south make no difference to their Buddha nature. The Japanese Ofuda Saki tells us, all the people of the world, the whole world, are equally brothers and sisters. There is no one who is an utter stranger. Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce said, the earth is the mother of all people, and all people should have equal rights upon it. And the great Baptist minister and civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. said, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly, and that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. not such a strange idea after all, is it? In fact, it's the core of our values when we are at our greatest. It is now 2025, a world of open borders. And centuries passed when these various religions first expressed our universal dream of a world peace, of compassion, belonging, and open arms to our entire human family. I'm not sure if and when this will happen, but I'm sure it should. And I'm sure we must not stop working to make it so until this dream finally comes true, a dream etched into the base upon which our liberty stands. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, please rise and we'll sing Building a New Way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can start with love, the seed. We can feed our every need. One more. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Our benediction is by Dean Koontz. All human lives are so profoundly and intricately entwined, those dead, those living, those generations yet to come, that the fate of all is the fate of each, and the hope of humanity rests in every heart and in every pair of hands. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.